Welcome to East Alabama Today, featuring topics, events, and interesting people from all over East Alabama. Hosted by Carl Brady. Now, let's get right to the show. Here's Carl Brady.
Hello, everyone. Welcome into East Alabama Today. I'm Carl Brady. Thanks so much for being with us on our program today. We have another paid political day for you, and our guest is going to be Scott Hassell from Etowah County, who is a candidate for the office of probate judge in Etowah County, and we'll meet Scott and talk more with him in just a moment. But first, let me remind you that if you have an idea for East Alabama Today, we want to hear from you. Send me an email at cbrady@tv24.tv. That way we know what's on your mind, and you can be our eyes and ears out on the streets, out in the community. So if you know of fairs, festivals, special events, or things that are going on, let me know about them. And you never know, we might be featuring that event right here on East Alabama Today one day soon. And we also want to know about the interesting people who live in your community. Maybe you know someone who is a writer, an artist, or a musician. Maybe they have an interesting hobby that you think they should share with everyone. We'd love to know about those folks as well. So again, the best way to get in touch with me is to send me an email, cbrady@tv24.tv. And if you'd like to go back and see some archived East Alabama Today shows, it's very simple now. Just go to our website, tv24.tv, click on the on-demand section and go to East Alabama Today, and there you'll see a whole series of archive shows that you can watch at your convenience on your computer or your mobile device. And we'll be back in a moment to meet Scott Hassell, and so just stay with us. We'll be back. Hello, everyone. Welcome back into East Alabama Today. I'm Carl Brady, and my guest today is Scott Hassell. Scott is a candidate for the office of probate judge in Etowah County. And Scott, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Carl.
Good
Glad
to see you.
Good to be here.
Well, let's talk a little bit about your candidacy. Probate judge, now, Etowah County probate judge Bobby Junkins has been there for decades.
Oh my goodness, yes, over 30 years.
Yeah, and Judge Junkins has decided to retire, so that's leaving an open spot, and you'd like to fill it.
Absolutely. You know, I never really thought about it through the years, but it seems like the perfect fit. After all, I've been doing elements of the job for over a quarter of a century.
Right.
Whether it's the mental health aspect, whether it's the elections, all the different things that the office encompasses, I've been doing it already. And so it just seemed like a perfect fit. It is almost as if the Lord's been providing me an opportunity to train for this job my entire career.
Well, let's talk about the job first and kind of get an idea of what the probate judge is responsible for. Then we'll talk about how you qualify for that.
Sure.
So the probate judge, you know, a lot of people are used to going to the probate judge to get married. But there's much more to that, probating wills, mental health hearings, and overseeing the election process in the county. So talk about some of those responsibilities of the probate judge.
Sure. The office was actually established by the Alabama legislature back in the 1800s, I believe 1850 in its present form. And the probate judge really is kind of the hub of county government in the early days, and in still many counties today. The probate judge is also the chairman of the county commission. That's not the case in Etowah County, but basically the probate judge handles some of the most intricate and delicate and sensitive parts of the Alabama law for each county. For example, the probate judge serves as the repository for all records. So if you're going to record a marriage, mortgage deeds, things like that are all recorded in the probate judge's office. So the probate judge is kind of the librarian.
Right.
Then you go further in things like wills, adoptions, conservatorships, all of those different things. I guess the sensitive part of the law, the probate judge handles that too. And I'll talk more about that in a minute, why I think the legislature did that back in the 1800s.
Okay.
But then it goes so far, and probably two of the most important things that I believe that, and especially in this day and time, that the probate judge handles. One is the elections. Elections have become contentious, both on the national, state, and local level,
Right.
and there's more scrutiny than there's ever been. Technology is advancing, and the probate judge is the chief election officer, and it's the individual that handles and makes sure that we have fair elections that are not only, I guess, run smoothly, but inspire confidence in the people.
Right, right.
And the second thing, and to me the most important, is that the probate judge handles mental health issues. Alabama is not on the verge of a mental health crisis. We're there. We've been there for some time. There are fewer and fewer resources for an individual to get the help that they need. The probate judge is the point person on that. The person that actually makes that commitment, that works with the hospitals and the providers to get people the help that they need.
Well, how does your experience over the last 30 years or so lead you to this position?
Well, in a lot of different ways. This is not something I started just during the campaign. I've been doing and being a part of our community for my entire career. As far as elections, I've participated in every single election as an election official for the past 2 decades, and got to see the intricate parts of how all that works, both in public and behind the scenes. A lot goes on with an election besides just casting a ballot and counting them.
Right.
The administrative side, I currently supervise over 100 employees. I manage a budget of almost $7 million. And I've done that again for 2 decades and have always come in at or under budget. And I think I have demonstrated through my different participation in civic organizations and negotiating state and federal contracts that I can reach across party lines and bring people together to accomplish realistic solutions to what ails us in our community. But I think my greatest strength, and the reason that I think God has put me in this position at this time, is my experience in mental health. Starting back in the late 80s, I've been working with substance abusers and the mentally ill each and every day. I'm very proud that one of the things that I did back in 2004, I saw a need in Etowah County. We had folks that were in jail waiting to go to prison, sometimes 2 years just to get drug treatment. I said, we don't need to do that. Let's help our own folks. So I started the first drug rehabilitation program inside a county jail in the state of Alabama, therapeutic community basis, the SAP program, and it doesn't cost the offender, nor does it cost the taxpayer any additional money. Now, we've had successes and failures, as all treatment modalities do, but what makes me so proud of that is that it's an illustration, I think, that we don't necessarily have to throw money at a problem. If we work together, oftentimes we'll find the solutions right here in front of us.
Right. And you also have served for many years in the community as a pastor.
I have. I currently serve at First Baptist Church Southside, and I've served 3 different churches in our community, and I'm very, very proud of that. And I think all of those things work together, both serving God and serving our community, which is really what we're called to be by God.
Your official position with the Sheriff's Office is Chief of Corrections, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Talk about that and the things that you've learned in that capacity that are going to help you when you reach out to people through the probate judge's office.
You know, every single day, and today included, I get a phone call from a mother or a father saying, my son's in trouble, my daughter's hurting, my grandson's strung out on drugs. What can you do to help? Because the eventual end of the road is coming to jail and sometimes potentially death that follows that. But time and time again, I've seen our numbers increase. Right now, we're the smallest county in Alabama, geographically speaking, but we had more prisoners this morning than St. Clair Correctional Facility in Springville.
Wow,
we had more prisoners than a state prison. And so I get to see that firsthand every day, how the problem is continuing to grow. I think our treatment efforts are less effective today than they've ever been, simply because of the sheer volume of people that we have. You know, it seems to be growing. We go to all these different community meetings and folks talk about we need to do this plan and that plan and come up with this solution. But the more I've listened to them, the more I realize is that we don't need new solutions. We need to bring the solutions that we have together, working together, take out the big I's and the little U's and all of those things, and work together. We have the answers right here before us. It's just going to take someone to bring them together.
Talk a little bit about your SAP program in the county jail there and how that works. I have had some minimal involvement with that with you, and you know you had some guys that were allowed to. You take them out to Kiwanis Club meetings or to different events in the community and let them speak to other people. And I think that's a big part of any kind of recovery process, admitting the problem and then helping somebody else. I think you help yourself when you help somebody else.
Oh, absolutely. The SAP program addresses addiction from a holistic approach. It's one thing just to get a person off drugs, but you have to change the entire person. They have to have a huge investment personally, or they're never going to stay sober. But it's not only them, it's their family. There's a healthcare component. There is a work component, their children. All of those things working together. One of the precepts of a 12-step recovery program says that you can only keep what you have by giving it away. So one of the things that I encourage our participants to do is after they get clean, and once we get the drugs out of their system, they're thinking better, they want to start giving back. So there's not a public school in Etowah County that we haven't touched at some time as far as renovation, remodeling, things that the school could not otherwise afford. We also try to reach out and touch the kids and share with them life-making choices and life-making decision skills, so hopefully they don't come down that same road that these inmates have.
Right. You talked about mental health, and I know we've been seeing a lot of news stories over the past few years of, like you said, the resources are dwindling. Mental health hospitals, mental health facilities that are supported by the state traditionally have been funds cut. They've been closing, and you would think with the mental health crisis growing that we would be increasing the treatment options, but those tools are going away, as you said. As probate judge, what can you do? What are your options to help people in this time of crisis?
Great question. That's the million-dollar question, actually, Carl. So you're right. All of the state-funded facilities and resources are dried up or have already gone. So if we're waiting locally for Montgomery to change that and fix our problems, we're going to be waiting forever.
Right.
So what can I do as probate judge? Things I'm already doing, and that's pulling resources together. I think we have a huge faith-based component in our community. We have a lot of well-meaning, good-intentioned people that want to help. They just don't know how. But we also have another group that can provide the training and the resources to equip those faith-based groups. Now I know what you're thinking. We can't just send everybody to church and they get a relationship with Jesus, and that's a whole nother show, I guess. We're talking about that probably on Sunday morning. But the reality is there's a lot of things that our faith-based and volunteer organizations can do if they have proper training and guidance and oversight. And I think I demonstrate and have for decades that I can pull those folks together. That's what we're doing right now, actually, and I just continue to see that grow and get stronger.
Sounds good. We need to take a commercial break, so we'll do that. We'll be back in just a moment to continue our conversation with Scott Hassell, candidate for Etowah County Probate Judge. We'll be back. Welcome back into East Alabama Today. I'm Carl Brady, and my guest today is Scott Hassell. Scott is candidate for the probate judge's office in Etowah County. As we established earlier, the current probate judge in Etowah County, Bobby Junkins, a well-known face and a well-known name throughout the state of Alabama.
Absolutely.
Everybody knows Bobby, but Bobby is going to retire. He's not running for re-election, leaving an open spot that you'd like to fill. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that and mention that Bobby is a familiar face and a familiar name around.
Yes.
You are as well. You've been very active out in the community, nonprofit events, special community events. See you out all over the place.
Yes,
Talk
sir.
about that involvement and why. You know, there's a lot of people you never see involved with these things, and then some things you go to, you see the same people over and over. Why is it important to you, even before you were running for office, to give back to the community and be such a large part of the community?
You know, I think it goes back to my faith. One of the precepts that Jesus gave us in Acts chapter 1 verse 8 is that we not only work, and we do international missions too. I'm very proud of the ministry that we have in Haiti, and of course disaster relief. We were in Houston, we were in Baton Rouge for the floods, but also I think sometimes we forget at home. And it's not just one day a week, it's not once a month or once a year. I think it's being involved every day, because everything, whether it's politics, church, it's all based on relationships and getting to know people. And the only way to build those relationships is getting involved. I've been real excited about some of the things I see going on in our community. Early on, it was kind of discouraging because many of our volunteer organizations are falling by the wayside. You know, all the philanthropic groups and volunteer fire departments even are struggling to find members. I'm a member of the Hoax Bluff City Council. I was elected back in 16, and one of the things that we're challenged with is we have a great fire department, but our fire chief struggles to get folks to volunteer. Because, and that seems to be the trend all across America, people are being involved less and less. My faith tells me that you got to be involved and build those relationships.
And I don't think it's necessarily that people don't want to be involved, but life demands so much of us nowadays. You know, most people are working 10, 12-hour days just to make ends meet. They got kids at ball games, and you got one kid at one ball game, another kid at another ball game, and a daughter that's at cheerleading, and and it's hard to make time, but it's important that you do that.
It is, and one of the things that I have noticed that's been good for me about the political campaign is campaigning and ministry are very similar in many respects. I'll give you an example. So in ministry, you're supposed to get out and go see folks, visit folks. If there's conflict, work really hard to be a peacemaker. That's what Jesus tells us in the Beatitudes, and things, lots of things in that respect. Well, sometimes we get lazy in ministry. We like to look at Facebook. Pastors, we'll listen to gossip or things like that, and maybe you need to go visit on a Tuesday night, but I really don't feel like going tonight, so we'll wait. Well, politics says that you got to do those things if you want to get elected. So what I find is that politics actually generates more enthusiasm for ministry. And I know that's a crazy thing and a concept people will shake their head at, but I think with a proper perspective, all of them kind of work together. So win, lose, or draw in June, I'm still a winner. My wife and I say that all the time because our ministry and our marriage is stronger than ever because we spend so much time with each other, my wife and I, and our ministry is reinvigorated just because we're getting out and doing more, even when we don't feel like it, even when we're tired, and God is really blessing that.
That's awesome. And so a lesson that you can take into your ministry as well, for sure. But one question everybody always has about the probate judge's office, you hear the word judge, you think of law, you think of lawyers and things like that. You're not a lawyer. How, do you have to be a lawyer to be qualified for this position?
I am not a lawyer. And when the legislature formed this office many, many years ago, they specifically put in the code that you don't have to be a member of the bar. You don't have to be a lawyer. So I researched that because I was curious too, because a lot of laws in Alabama are antiquated and quite frankly need updating. So I was curious, why is that in there? But when you start looking, it's really obvious and easy to understand why. Because things like adoptions and wills and conservatorships are very sensitive, and they require not so much the letter of the law, which is important, but also the spirit of the law.
Right.
And I think they wanted a common person, or the ability for a common person, just an everyday person, to be able to have that role, to apply not only the law, because fortunately in Alabama, wills, estates, conservatorships, adoptions the law is very clear cut, and it's easy to understand. Matter of fact, I'm an adoptive parent, and I did it pro se, which means I did my own adoption for my son. We did all our own paperwork, so you can do that. It's not that difficult, but I think more importantly, they want to be able to look at the character of a person and have a wide spectrum or wide choice of people. Now, saying that, I want to very clearly say that my two opponents, both on the Democrat and the Republican side, are fine, honorable men. I consider them great friends, and whomever gets elected to this office, Etowah County can be proud of. But also taking a look at, have we ever had a lawyer in this role? Etowah County, even before it was Etowah and Bain County, has never had a lawyer in this position. As a matter of fact, an interesting statistic, you mentioned Bobby Junkins. Judge Junkins has been in the office for over 3 decades. And I got to looking back, he's been reversed or overturned by the Civil Court of Appeals only 5 times in 30 years.
That's an incredible record.
It's an incredible record. I think he can do better. He's doing better than some of our circuit and district judges. And what's ironic is, and a lot of folks just assume that Judge Junkins is a lawyer, but you and I know his profession is a librarian. So historically, we've had storekeepers, we've had road workers, we've had librarians, and we even had a preacher at one time that have served as probate judges.
Well, that's incredible. It sounds like a lot of the your pastoral care training and experience is going to carry over into this, and I think you mentioned being an adoptive parent as well. Having that experience, you're going to know exactly what the people who come before you are going through, the excitement, the concerns, the fears, all of that together. But I think some of the, I can imagine as probate judge, some of the best days in the office are when you get to put those families together.
You know, you mentioned that, Carl, one of the greatest days of my life, and Bobby Junkins made that possible when I was sitting in his courtroom, and it was more, he handled all the legal proceedings as he's supposed to, but he made it very personal, and he reminded me of just how important and how significant that day was, not only that day, but for the rest of my life. And it was. I mean, it was one of the greatest days of my life when I adopted my son.
What are some of your goals for the office? If you get elected, what would you like to see done going forward in the probate judge's office?
Well, a couple of things. One, technology is advancing, and being the repository of records, there are more and more opportunities every day for the public to have better access to their records. And as far as having a specific, technology is changing so rapidly, and Judge Junkins has already put a lot of things in place. But I think going forward, whomever the probate judge is, we have to continue to look at that and make public records even more accessible to folks. Number 2, I think that we've got to continue to have that personal touch. One of the things that I think Judge Junkins brings to the table and has done such a great job with is that everybody knows him. Everybody in our county feels like they know him personally. Whether they do or not, they do. And I think that personal touch is something that the probate judge has got to maintain. It can't be an aloof thing. It can't be somebody that's just in the courthouse. It's got to be a member of the community. And the third thing, and the thing that's most passionate to me, because we're in a crisis, is working to bring together our community resources and enhance the accessibility of mental health treatment and substance abuse treatment to our population.
That sounds very good. And we're going to take another quick commercial break. Come back and wrap things up in just a moment. So stay with us. Well, we're already at the end. Time for our final segment of East Alabama Today. Thank you for being with us here. Our guest is Scott Hassell. Scott is one of the candidates for probate judge in Etowah County, subject to the June 5th primary.
Yes,
and so you'll be doing the primary voting on June 5th. And Scott, I'm going to let you take some time to directly address the viewers with anything you'd like to say.
Sure. Thank you first for watching this show. I think this is a great opportunity for you to get to know more about me. I could go through a litany of my experience. I could tell you I'm a veteran of the United States Army. I've served in the city council, all of the different things. But you know what? You're probably more informed than any other voter has been in the history of America. So you can look at those things on the internet or Facebook and find out more about me. But right now I want to ask you to do something really important. This election is much more important than me or any of the other candidates running. Our country and even our local communities have evolved into places where elections are very contentious, they're hurtful, we're mean-spirited, and we're being more divisive as a community. This is your opportunity to exercise one of the most precious gifts that we have, and that's the ability to vote. And in doing so, to bring our communities back together. I can't emphasize to you enough how important it is to get to know our neighbors and how important it is just to love one another. Now, I know that may sound like a plea from a preacher, but I think this election is a good opportunity for us to get out and do just those things. I'm humbled by the fact that you're watching this show, and I desperately and humbly ask for your prayers, because that's the most important thing you can do for me. And if you think that I'm worthy, if you think that I'm qualified, and if you think I'm the best man for the job, I respectfully ask for your vote on June the 5th. And Carl, I appreciate you having me today. It's
Absolutely. It's always been a pleasure. Your friendship has been valued over the years, so I appreciate you being on the show with us. I want to remind you that if you want to learn more about Scott, website, hassellforprobate.com, and of course, all over Facebook. You can look up the same thing on Facebook and find out more information as well. So Scott, thank you very much for being with us today. And folks, thank you for joining us here on East Alabama Today. See you next time.